Welcome to episode 413 of the 2-Minute Warning. Today, I'm looking at whether Joe Burrow can lead the Cincinnati Bengals to the playoffs in 2021. But before getting into that topic, question for those of you viewing: who is the all-time leader in sacks in Cincinnati Bengals franchise history? If you know the answer, comment it below. If you do not, don't worry, I will reveal the answer at the end. So make sure you stay tuned. But looking at the Bengals right now, finishing fourth in their division this past year in 2020. Of course, Joe Burrow was injured, but I'm not exactly sure if he was healthy that would have changed the outcome by any means. You got to figure three teams in the AFC North, were playoff teams. So I don't think the Bengals are going to make a push to be a playoff team by any means last year. They did finish with the 5th overall pick in the NFL draft, just to give you a general idea of how they finished compared to the rest of the league. Not too great, but with a healthy quarterback coming back in a offseason with some draft capital and some cap room, this team could make a turnaround. However, my unfortunate answer for those of you who are watching and are Bengals fans will probably be that they will not make the playoffs this year. Joe Burrow, I think he has every talent within him to be a playoff quarterback. However, you can even make the argument, in my opinion, realistically, that Joe Burrow might be the best quarterback in the division. Sounds kind of bold because he lacks experience, coming off an injury. Don't know if he'll be the same guy, but really, Big Ben's a fossil. I think in a game right now, Joe Burrow, I think I would take over Big Ben. I would definitely take Joe Burrow over Baker Mayfield. Lamar Jackson, I'm not a fan of him in the long run, but if I had to win a football game today, I do think Lamar Jackson I would take over Joe Burrow. Lamar, as much as I knock on him, he is a winner, and he is winning today. Long term, when he turns 30, 31, 32, and loses his speed, he won't be that great in the league. So long term, I'd go with Burrow, but right now, I think he's probably the second, maybe first best quarterback in his division. However, the roster around him is definitely probably the third or fourth worst. Zach Taylor, the head coach, I'm glad they're giving him another chance, and I'm not sure he's going to be the right guy. However, I am glad they're giving him one more chance to see if he is. I think Joe Burrow himself, if he comes back 100%, assuming he will, having the ACL injury, a quarterback should come back from that pretty well. It's not like he's a Russell Wilson or Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray that needs his legs that much. Of course, he'll scramble here and there like a Justin Herbert or like a Alex Smith that just when you need to go on the run, he's available to and has some mobility to, but by any means, that ACL injury will not affect him where he needs it the most, and that's in his arm. And he has great pocket passing abilities. Like I said, I believe in him and his utter talent. However, I just don't think the Bengals are enough to make a playoff push, especially being in that division. Now, if this Bengals team somehow, some way was in the NFC East, this would be a complete different conversation. But in your division, when you have the Browns that have arguably one of the best offenses and one of the best backfields in the NFL, one of the best offensive line in the NFL, and a well-rounded receiving core, Lamar Jackson, one of the most electric quarterbacks on the ground in the NFL, that's a factor. And then when you have the Steelers, like I said, Big Ben is a fossil, but they have a top 3 defense in the NFL. So there's not really any easy games or cupcake games or break games within his own division for Joe Burrow. That is where some teams make up, such as Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. They benefit from playing the Denver Broncos twice a year, or Tom Brady and the Bucs. They benefit from playing the Panthers twice a year. Joe Burrow, not going to benefit by any means except for learning early in the NFL, and nothing comes easy. So I guess experience factor, he will benefit from that, but getting an easy game to go through week to week, that will not come for sure. Looking at what the Bengals need, 100% their top priority is protection for Joe Burrow. We saw what happened to him last year, like I said, the ACL injury, and we do not want that to happen again. Number 5 overall pick, I hope they address the offensive line, whether it be Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater. I think Sewell is the obvious take, but I understand Slater for some reasons. I heard Sewell's tape is not the greatest, so I'm not an absolute scout. Either way, protect the man. I don't care who you go with. Just show some effort. Or if you don't go through the draft, maybe you pick an offensive weapon at number 5 overall. Maybe reunite Joe Burrow with his wide receiver from LSU and Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts, whichever route you want to go. Make sure you address offensive line, maybe in free agency with Joe Thuney, great guard from the Patriots. Terrell Williams, probably the top left tackle on the market in free agency. You have the cap space to make a room, to make a move, and you have the draft capital to make a move. You just have to do one of the two, if not both, to protect your quarterback. He's your most important position and your best player on your team right now, so give him the help he needs. I think whichever way they don't go in the draft, such as protection or a weapon, they go the other. So if they draft Sewell at the fifth overall, I think in the free agency they should look at adding Burrow another receiver. They already have some talent in Tyler Boyd, Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins was a great rookie receiver, one of the top in his class this past year. A.J. Green and John Ross are going to be free agents. I think they should and will let both of them go. So look at, I'm not saying his receiving core is weak. Like I said, he has Boyd and Higgins, but it does need a little bit more depth along with Auden Tate. I would honestly look at Corey Davis from the Tennessee Titans, not an absolute X-factor receiver, but he would also be a lesser price. And if they were to go out and try and pick up Allen Robinson or Chris Godwin, of course, if they can nail one of those guys down, 100% go for it. But to me, go with Corey Davis, where it's an extra safety blanket for Burrow at a relatively fair price. Looking at the defense, you got Geno Atkins all by himself on that defensive line. Get him some help as well. Maybe look at Shaq Barrett, maybe look at Von Miller, or possibly not that expensive, a cheaper lineman. Melvin Ingram probably won't re-sign with the Chargers. He might be looking for a big paycheck, but he knows he's getting older, so maybe he will take a pay cut to go with the Bengals. I'm not sure. And maybe the secondary as well could use some help. Yes, there's solid safeties in Jesse Bates and Von Bell. However, there's not a lockdown cornerback on that team, and they 100% need that. That is a position they consider as well at 5th overall. Maybe if they want to look at Patrick Surtain, Caleb Farley, or Micah Parsons, the linebacker position, that could help out the Bengals. But to me, like I said, you got to protect your most important asset, and that is Joe Burrow. Get him protection, number 5 overall, and that is in Penei Sewell. So, of the many gaps they have this year in offensive line, in the receiving core, in the front 7, and in the secondary, I think they could fill 1 or 2. But this team is 2 to 3 off seasons away from being a serious competitor. Like I said, Joe Burrow himself is in a win-now situation. He can win with a team. However, when he's in that situation with 3 playoff teams in his division, and the AFC is already tough enough, like you saw with the Miami Dolphins, they finished 10-6 last year and still got bumped out of the playoffs. I find it very hard to see Joe Burrow to overcome all this. Now, long-term, once Big Ben finally retires, once Lamar Jackson finally slows down a little bit, once Baker Mayfield doesn't have one of the best offenses in the NFL and has to actually carry his team and not be a game manager, I think Joe Burrow could come out and even get a division win for this Cincinnati franchise. But anytime soon, as in this very year, I don't see a lot of success coming from Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Honestly, like I said, having that much competition in your own division, I almost see this as a year to try and aim for a high draft pick so the following year you fill in all the gaps and you are a ready win-now situation. This year, yes, you don't want to tank, obviously, but I don't want to see the Bengals just go for a 7-9, 8-8 season. That means nothing and just hurts their draft pick. Yes, I want Joe Burrow to get some wins under his belt and some experience on his side outside of his rookie year and see how well he does after the injuries. But as long as he's performing well, I see this being, I've already compared it before, Joe Burrow and the Bengals this upcoming year being like a Deshaun Watson and the Texans year. Joe Burrow is going to perform every statistical stat well on his side, just like Deshaun Watson did with the Texans, but the roster around him is just not enough, and they will be a losing team. So I think Joe Burrow has a bright future, but for this year, I just think it's way too soon, and there's many two holes around him for this team to fix. They still have to see if Zach Taylor is even the coach to stay and be the franchise's guy for the next 10 to 15 years. But anything can happen. This free agency and offseason is crazy enough with the quarterback carousel. We could see a couple huge moves if the Bengals up and sign Chris Godwin and Shaq Barrett from the Buccaneers and draft Penei Sewell from the draft. This is a whole new team, and I could be wrong. But looking at what they got right now and the many gaps they have on their team, I just don't see it happening. Like I said, though, let me know in the comments. What do you guys think? Do you think they'll make a playoff push? Will Joe Burrow be back 100% and healthy? Like I said, let me know. For the question for the video, the all-time leader in sacks in Cincinnati Bengals franchise history is, of course, Carlos Dunlap at number 2. You got Geno Atkins, 2 great guys that played there for a while. Thanks for watching, guys. 2 in the morning.